I welcome us to the second Sunday of Christmas. Today, we go beyond the child in the manger. We go beyond the crib to the pre-existence of this child that was born. Our first reading is from the book of Ecclesiasticus, one of those writings regarded as the wisdom literature. And today, wisdom is personified. Wisdom speaks. Wisdom invites people. Wisdom instructs. Wisdom opens its mouth in an assembly and glorifies her presence, the presence of God. In this reading, wisdom tells us, or the author informs us, that wisdom was there from the beginning of creation. And it was through this wisdom that creation came to be. Even without mentioning it, I believe we're already forming our thoughts around a person, Jesus Christ himself, as the wisdom of the Father, one through whom everything came to be. And this is what is pictured in the gospel, the prologue of John's gospel. From the beginning, John is already doing theology. John is already leading us into contemplation. He's guiding us beyond the immediate realization of what we celebrate at Christmas, the child that is born. He begins from the beginning of all things, guiding us and leading us back to the beginning of the first book of the Bible, in the beginning. And John tells us, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. At creation, God created through his own spoken words. In Hebrew, the word dabar, which means word, goes beyond just the spoken word. This is word that has the creative power to bring things, to call things into being. And that is what John is telling us. That word was with God at the beginning. That word was God. That word eventually took flesh and dwells among us. And that dwelling among us, that taking flesh of the word, the dabar, the logos, is what we celebrate at Christmas. That God chose to be born. That God is not separated from the activities of humanity, from our story. Human story becomes God's story, becomes divine story, because God comes into our world, takes up our flesh, pitches his tent with us, dwells among us, shares in everything we are. What kind of God is this that chooses to become like his creature in order to lead them into his own life, the communion of the three persons of God. However, there is a danger in this. At creation, one of the most beautiful gifts God has given to humanity is the gift of freedom to choose. And though the Word took flesh and pitches his tent among us, there is a danger that we can as well overlook him. We can reject him. We can decide not to accept him, because he doesn't force himself into our own space. He invites us to dispose ourselves to accept him. And John recognized this when he said, he came to his own domain, and his own people did not accept him. There is a danger in that. In the gentleness of God, in the meekness of God, in the way God operates. Yet, in this freedom, we have the responsibility of whatever choice we make. John tells us, though there is danger of rejecting him, but to all those who accept him, he has given the opportunity to become children of God. They share in this inheritance of Jesus Christ as the Son of God. Those who accept him become the true children, sons and daughters of God. And this is where it concerns us. God comes in the ordinary events of life. God comes in the ways we do not expect. We may have our own minds, our concept, stereotypes of how God must come. Yet he approaches in a gentle manner, in the little ways, as St. Teresa of the Child tells us, in ordinary events of life. But those who recognize him and accept him in those ordinary events, these are those who are children of God. Again, in this passage, John tells us of our inheritance, of what we have received from him. First, he is the light that dispels the gloomy darkness in our lives, the light that brings hope to the hopeless, the light that gives vision to the blind, the light that enlightens us, the light that guides us on our ways. Again, he is life because he brings life. He gives us life. Becoming flesh, now he takes our own life and transforms it. He takes our nature and transforms it and leads us into his own life. Yet, to all those who accept him, he has given grace upon grace. Grace is a supernatural gift from God. It's unmerited. It's not because of my holiness, my righteousness, because I'm good. No. God has given us everything. Jesus Christ himself becomes the grace that God gives us, unmerited, because he is interested in us. His providence guides us. His providence keeps us, leads us. And this is what St. Paul in the second reading captures, blessing God, who has given us all the spiritual blessings of heaven in Christ. So in this child that is born, remember how we started. The word that was with God, the word that was at the beginning, and the word that was God, and the word that has taken flesh and pitched his tent among us, encapsulates every gift that God desires to give to humanity. St. John of the Cross tells us that in this Son, God has given us everything. He has nothing else to give because he has given us everything in his Son. And that is what St. Paul is telling us. Even before the world was made, he chose us in Christ to be holy and spotless and to live through love in his presence, determining that we should become his adopted children, sons and daughters, through Jesus Christ, for his own purposes, to make us praise of the glory of his grace, his free gift to us in the beloved. This particular phrase is so dear to Saint Elizabeth of the Trinity, who lived a life. In fact, she called herself Laudem Gloriae, the praise of God's glory. And this is how we are called to live, because he has given us everything. The grace we receive in Christ guides us, shapes us, transforms us, and determines how we should live our lives. Yes, we are celebrating Christmas, the birth of the child Jesus, the birth of God in our lives, in our world. But we're also called and invited to become the Christ to others. St. Teresa of Jesus tells us that Jesus Christ has no word again. He has no limbs, he has no mouth, no eyes. But we become the eyes, we become the mouth that speaks peace and love. We become the hands with which he does good. We become the feet with which he reaches out to people. And that is where our own journey, our own mission begins. The mission of Jesus Christ was to be born and to transform us. And he has given us the grace. But our own mission begins to complement this mission of Jesus in the way we live and the way we relate with others. Let us become the praise of his glory. Let us live our lives being conscious of the spiritual benefit, the spiritual gifts that we have received in Christ. Being conscious that God has destined us to be the praise of his glory. And let us accept him in our lives, that his light may quench the darkness and illumine our darkness and dispel every shadow of death and evil in our lives.